Hello, I'm Steve Shaw, National Coordinator of Football Officials and Secretary Rules Editor for the NCAA. And today we're presenting the fifth in our series of media videos for 2021. We're going to be focused on game action from the weekend of October 2nd. Now, before we get into our plays, we're through 5 weeks now, so our data set is beginning to grow. And so I want to update some of the numbers. Our scoring is actually down about 3 points from last year. We're averaging 54.5 points per game. Targeting fouls, we're staying steady. We're at 0.24 targeting fouls per game. That's one targeting foul in about every 4 games. Our fouls per game are at 14.8, and that's very consistent with last year. And replay, we're averaging 2.1 stops per game, and that's down about 0.4 from last year. But the overturns are right on last year. We have 1 overturn per game. And finally, our game duration, 3 hours and 18 minutes. That's been holding steady over the last couple weeks. And that's down a couple minutes from last year, so that's good. So with all that data, we'll continue to track it. But let's get on into some plays. Our first play this week, we're going to take a look at a potential targeting foul. And now we've got a kickoff. It's fielded at about the goal line and returned to the 14 where the return man takes a big hit. And as we take a look at this hit, we're going to get a view from behind number 40, and we can see that there are indicators of targeting as the player goes from a heads-up position to a heads-down position. And then really from the ground level view, you're going to see number 40 attacks and makes forcible contact with the crown of the helmet, a dangerous position for number 40 himself. So this is targeting with the crown of the helmet, and replay can confirm it. And the contact by number 40 is really to the bottom of the helmet and into the shoulder of the opponent. But when it's a foul for targeting with the crown of the helmet, the location of the hit on the opponent really doesn't matter. Now, lastly, we do see the runner drop his pads and duck his head, but it's not targeting because there's no indicator. There's no attack to an opponent. The runner's just lowering his head to protect himself and get extra yardage. So no targeting there, but a correct call for targeting on number 40 with the crown of the helmet. Play 2 is an extra point play. And before we take a look at that, I first want to discuss scoring on an extra point or a try. And we know that by rule, a try is an opportunity for either team to score 1 or 2 points while the game clock is stopped after a touchdown. And as we look at the value of scores on a successful try, a touchdown counts 2 points, a field goal counts 1 point, a safety counts 1 point. So a lot of times we say they're going for 2, but what we really mean is they're attempting to score a touchdown that will count for 2 points. And as we take a look at this play, we get a kick try, and they're going to get it blocked. The defense is going to block it. The ball's going to roll to about the 1 yard line, stays in the field of play. And number 12 for the defense is going to pick up the ball. And we know he can run it back for a touchdown himself and get his own team 2 points. But he takes the ball back on his own into his own end zone, and he's going to be down there. And so the result of this play is a safety. And we know because of the scoring on the try, the safety counts 1 point, so the offense is going to be awarded 1 point for this extra point play. Very unusual play. Play 3, we get a surprise onside kick, and the kicker hits a slow roller, and we know the ball must go 10 yards before the kicking team may legally touch or recover the ball. And the kicker has great patience here, and the kicker lets the ball go 10 yards, and then he's going to recover it. And that was the ruling on the field, that the kicking team recovered the ball after it had gone 10 yards. Now, we know replay can come in and review touching, and they can review blocks. Remember that the kickers can't legally block an opponent until the ball's gone 10 yards, or they can legally touch the ball. But the blocks are okay on this play. But as we go back and look, we get a close-up on the kicker, and we're going to see that the kicker is going to meet the ball with his toe, and then the ball is going to hop up and hit him in the heel. And this counts as an illegal touching. So with this illegal touching, the ball is going to be awarded to the receiving team at the spot of illegal touching. It'll be 1st and 10 for the receiving team at that point. So very unusual review of illegal touching. Play 4, we're going to take a look at a couple of uniform issues, and this was based on a number of questions that we received. So first, we see player number 99 here. He's wearing a hoodie, and it's hanging out from the back collar of his jersey. Now, there's nothing in our rules that prohibit the player from wearing a hoodie, but the question is, what if this player is tackled by the hoodie? Would it be a horse collar tackle? And as we see, the hoodie is really covering part of the nameplate area. Would it be any foul at all if a player pulls him down by that? And the answer is no. That if a player tackles and pulls down an opponent by the hoodie, it is no foul for tackling that player. It's almost like tackling the player with hair, long hair that's hanging out from the back of the helmet. That is not a horse collar foul. That's not a foul at all. And we also see another player wearing a bandana that's hanging out the back of the helmet. Now, by rule, you really can't have a visible bandana worn on the field. That's illegal equipment. But if the player is tackled by this bandana, again, it is no foul. Now, I'm sure the Rules Committee is going to discuss these hoodies being worn by players, as it seems to be a growing trend in our game. Play 5 is going to be a 2-play vignette, and we're going to talk through the false start rule. Now, we know that if an offensive player makes a movement that simulates the start of a play, it's a false start. But the exception to this is it is not a false start if an offensive lineman immediately reacts when threatened by an opponent in the neutral zone. And that's what we see here. The nose tackle jumps in the neutral zone, and the offensive lineman react. And so the foul is on the defense for offside. Now, if we look at the end zone view, a defensive person can only threaten up to 3 people on the offense. If they're head up a lineman, then they can threaten that lineman and the 2 adjacent offensive linemen. But if they're in a gap, like on this play, then they can only threaten the 2 linemen that are adjacent to that gap. And so the next play, what we're going to see is a punt formation situation, and we see a defender at the top of the screen. He's going to enter the neutral zone. And then the offensive player at the bottom of the screen react, but he didn't threaten this player. This is a foul on the offense for a false start, as the offensive player clearly wasn't threatened, and they really didn't immediately react. Our last play this week, we've got a throw downfield to the goal line, and it looks like we may have an interception, but then the ball is going to bounce around a couple times, and ultimately number 3 of the offense is going to come up with it, and the back judge is going to rule touchdown. Now, the crew's going to come together to discuss it, and this is a play we're really glad we have replay. And before we can review it, we get an unsportsmanlike conduct call by the back judge for 0 of the defense punching the ball from the receiver well after the play is over. Now, before we know the enforcement options on the unsportsmanlike conduct foul, we need to have the review. So as we review this, we see 28 goes up for the ball, tries to intercept, and he's going to lose it, but it's not going to hit the ground. It hits the receiver a couple times in the back, and it pops off his wrist into the air, and then number 3 is going to pick the ball out of the air, and we can confirm the touchdown. And now the offense is going to make the decision to enforce the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on the try, not on the kickoff. And so the penalty is enforced half the distance to the goal, so they'll put the ball in play at the 1.5-yard line, and they run it into the end zone for a 2-point play. So very good work by our crew on the field, good work by replay, and a good decision by the coach to take the penalty on the extra point and score 2 points. Well, that's it for our plays this week. And again, we appreciate your time invested in watching these plays. And thanks again for the feedback on the plays and the type plays you'd like to see as we move forward. That is very, very helpful to all of us. So best of luck to all this week, and let's all work hard to stay safe and healthy.